To start off with the loud training that will disturb our neighbors. We already went through demolitions training this past weekend. Upcoming on the 30th and the 31st of October, we're going to have artillery training. So residents in the area will notice more loud bangs and booms, and we'll get through that. That combined with our daily busy flight schedule out of the Muir Army Airfield, the second largest heliport in the United States Army. So we have that. A special note is on the 23rd of October, this weekend, we're going to start our big division warfighter simulation exercise. Area residents will probably see increased activity around the gap just with the number of soldiers that are coming in. So just be aware of that. This afternoon at 1, we look forward to presenting the FIG Local Defense Group strategic plan to our Adjutant General, Brigadier General Corelli. And that, pending any questions, sir, is all we have going on.
You said you're bringing in additional people for training,
right.
Soldiers. And I was wondering how many active duty soldiers will be in Lebanon County on November the 8th?
November the 8th, it probably will number somewhere around 3,900 troops.
Troops, and how many individuals?
3,900.
Okay, 3,900. And so they would all be eligible to vote at our polling places for the national election?
Right. Most of them, when they go with what the Army habitually does when they have an exercise that's going over a national election like that, they're usually pre-briefed on that to go and get an absentee ballot or early voting, depending on how it falls down. If there are some that are local, which the bulk of that population will, they'll make them in, or means for them to have voted.
Okay, so are they directed, if somebody says, I want to vote today, are they directed to a specific polling place? They can go anywhere in the county, is that right?
That I couldn't tell you, being a newer resident of Pennsylvania, what the law is. I can tell you the law in Virginia, you would have to go to where your registered polling place is, so that's why they always encourage.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Michal Anderson. I'm the Director of Elections here in Lebanon County. We actually had this discussion with poll worker training this week, and one of the items that does happen is sometimes some military personnel that had not voted absentee but still wanted to participate in the election, they will go to the polling place usually closest to the gap. And the current procedure is what we'll do is, we'll see if they're registered here. If they're not, what we'll do is we have them sign in the back of our polling book who they are, all their information. And then what we're most likely going to do, and I haven't had this discussion with Jamie and the board yet, but the idea at this point most likely would be to issue them a provisional ballot to make sure that they can vote. And then what we want to do is make sure that that individual, which we do not believe this will happen, but just because the question was arisen, is that we don't have the same name appearing in multiple books of somebody that's come in a uniform and has tried to vote multiple times. So so the idea is that we're going to give them a provisional ballot. That way we can then bring that before the board and then determine if those ballots should be counted or not based on the information we have once everything's kind of come back to us, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So that's kind of the way we're going to, and I apologize I didn't get a chance to talk to you about this yet, but that's kind of the way we were thinking, because if we allow them to vote on the actual machines, and then there is some type of, in a very rare instance, fraud where we would have somebody sign the book twice, we wouldn't be able to pull them out because we wouldn't know the votes to pull out. So that's why we were heading towards the provisional ballot.
So it can be audited, or
Correct. So then that way, if there becomes an issue, we'll see that, and then we can pull those, obviously, with the Board of Elections approval.
And that also makes sense because they would not be eligible if they're from another county or another area in Pennsylvania for our House candidates, for instance.
Correct.
And perhaps in some instances, our congressional races are different than theirs. So
most likely
sounds
it would
like
just
a
be
wise
the
decision.
federal races, depending on where
Yes.
they're from. But yes, you know, some of the local, as you said, the districts, they wouldn't be living in that district, so those votes wouldn't count.
Right.
If I may, I'd like to get in contact with you probably
Absolutely.
later, and we can have that already worked out.
Absolutely.
I
And I
think
will.
for the most part, though, they vote absentee.
Yes, most of them, especially, there's going to be soldiers from out of state coming to this.
Yes.
They obviously would have had to have done early voting or absentee, one of the two, but this certainly settles for the majority of them that'll be Pennsylvania residents.
Correct. And for the sacrifices that they make, we want to be as flexible as possible for them. But yeah, obviously, ideally, that they would vote absentee before they would come, because then they can vote for their ballot, for where they're from,
Right.
and the races that they could, you know, would be able to participate in all of them.
Beautiful.
Okay.
We thank you, sir.
Well done, Michael, thank you.
Thank you for the conversation.